So good morning. Hi, Dylan. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do interviews with me. Coming from a medical background, heading into more entrepreneurship futures for well-being. I really loved meeting you as a young and upcoming sports psychologist, and we agreed on having a series of interviews because what I was pleasantly surprised about is how your generation of young professionals is leading the way into a future that enables people like me, who've been around for 50 plus years, to simplify life. And that's, I think, for me, the first thing that surprised me when we met and we started talking. How did you feel when we met? Do you remember?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say it's amazing, isn't it, what the internet can do, and they can just connect you with like so many people now. I think that's just the beauty of people just putting out, showing what they do. So especially when you, regardless of what career you're in, just being able to have the opportunity just to share it with people and meet people, it's amazing. But yeah, obviously, like first time we met, it was just a message on what was the website called again? Digital Nomad, I think it was,
The
wasn't it?
nomad's world, right?
Yeah, and we just I had no idea where it was going to go, and now we're here. It's yeah, it's funny where it can take you, but it's nice to know there's people out there who are really open minded and kind of aligned in the same kind of things that you want to do, and
Right.
yeah, it just amazes me that there's people out there who all want just the best for just humanity. So no, it was fantastic.
Amazing, right? So let's talk a bit about where you are now, and then we'll head future forward into what your
Mm.
plans are. So you're in the Gold Coast right now, is that correct?
Yeah, so I never really travelled before, but I had the opportunity just in June just to go out and go and explore the world, and ended up just coming to the Gold Coast, working here for a little bit while continuing my business online, my sports psychology consultancy and training, and just want a bit of time away from the typical life. I've done university, working, hadn't really explored. So I thought, you know what, before I really kind of settle down and go full in on like my career, I used to go kind of explore the world. And luckily, with like my sports psychology consultancy, you're able to kind of do it online as well. So yeah,
Right.
it's currently in the Gold Coast. I'm going to head back to the UK at some point in the next few weeks. But yeah, it's been amazing to come out here and have some time away from the typical kind of life that you have, and also reflect really and gain a lot of clarity about me as a person, what I want to do. So it's been fantastic being able to see what other parts of the world, but also reflect on my life to date, really. So,
Mm. So tell us, what's the name for your business?
so my consultancy is called For Sporting Brain, and that's I'm hoping to get that to a point where that can be my full time career. Is having clients come through that, working with athletes from youth sport to elite sport, and have that as my main business. I've never thought I would have a business in my life before. I always said to myself I weren't the business type of person and whatnot. But yeah, now I've got a consultancy. I'm sending invoices, marketing, and stuff like that. So yeah, I never would have thought I'd be doing that. Even when I finished my masters and I started my training to become a sports psychologist, I still didn't think I'd have my own business, and
Right.
now here I am. I know it's still very young. It's not exactly where it wants to be yet, and it's
Good.
not its final form yet. But in terms of this past 2 years, probably it's been a journey, and it's been challenging. But learning how to run that and market it and all these kind of business skills, which I thought I would never have to use in my life, it's been interesting learning it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it where it's at the minute.
Right. So tell us which university and how long have you been doing it?
So yes, I was based down in Cornwall, which is like southwest of the UK, and I did my bachelor's degree at the local college there. It was with University of Plymouth, but it was done at the college there, and that was a sports science degree, and that was fantastic. I didn't really feel ready to take the step away from home and go live away from university, which I look back now and kind of wish I did. But
Mm-hmm.
I did back there anyway, and then I went to Bristol at the University of the West of England
Oh,
to study sports psychology, and yeah, did that for a year there. Then I had about a year and a half period where I had to do some other courses through the Open University to be able to get onto the actual official training to become a sports psychologist. And now I'm with a company called BASES, who are like, it's the British Association of Sport and Exercise Science, and they've got their own training route. Because you have like the BPS, who are like the British Psychological Society, and BASES. They have like two routes basically to become a qualified psychologist in the UK. And I went through the BASES route, and it's called CPAR, which is like the Sport and Exercise Psychologist accreditation route. And it takes you about either 3-4 years to basically go out there, gain experience with a supervisor overseeing you. And once you've done that, you've gained enough hours, you can then apply to become a fully qualified sports psychologist. So I'm probably about a year away until I'm fully qualified. And it's been amazing. But I kind of look back and think I wish I did more at university and made the most of the opportunity there. And even my training now, I still feel like I've never really give my all in it properly, just for other kind of reasons, like lack of self-belief. Yeah, just very lack of self-belief. I've kind of procrastinated a lot, really. But I've got to a point now where I think, okay, like that's happened. I've learned from it, so I'm really kind of ready to try really hard on it now and really delve deep into it.
Amazing. So what really surprised me was your content. For me, it really helped me simplify the way I was looking at myself. So we're going to be doing a series of interviews, and this first one is going to be about who are you and what did your life teach you and how did you get started doing the things that you currently do. So let's dive into the first question. Tell us, if I ask you the question, who are you? What kind of answers come up in your mind?
I remember when you asked me this question and I had to sit there and I was writing down, and it is probably one of the most difficult questions that actually answer. And I actually recommend people to sit there and actually think like, who am I? Because it opens up a whole can of worms really about what you who you are. And like, straight away when I was answering that question, it came to what roles that I play. Like, I'm a sports psychologist. That's one of the first things that popped up. And I sat back and I thought, I'm much more than that. Like, that's just a role I play, and it's something I do. And it's funny because a lot of the work that I did with like clients, especially like youth athletes, is around like self-identity, and it's imploring athletes to go explore who they are in the world. It's not just an athlete. That's something you do. You're a brother, you're a mother, you're a father, whatever it is. You have so many different parts of you, but they're just roles, right? And we define ourselves a lot on the things we actually do. So that straight away, my brain went to being, I'm a psychologist, a sports psychologist. And I was like, there's more to it than that. There's me as well. And what is my authentic self? So yeah, sports psychologist, that's what I do. But I'm a son. I've got a mum and dad who love me. I'm a brother. I'm a person who loves playing football. I love Star Wars. I love gaming. There's so much more to me. But like, it's funny how straight away I went to being, yeah, I'm a sports psychologist. Yeah. And I asked my brother this question, like, who are you? And he went straight away, I'm a PT, a personal trainer. I was like, right, okay. And I think if you ask loads of people, like, who are you? But they'll straight away go to a certain role that they play, which they kind of identify with. But yeah, that question's so difficult to answer, because then you also have a look at like, what actually makes me then? If it's not just the roles that I have. So these are the things that I do. Yeah. What am I? And then I look back and think like, what are the kind of values that I had? And like, for me, I'm a person who is very kind of affectionate. I love helping people. I care a lot about people. I kind of put people's needs over mine, probably to my detriment sometimes. And I look back and I think, okay, they're more about like my personality, my values and stuff. But then there's still someone else there though. When we talked a lot about this in terms of, this is quite deep now, but like when we do a lot of mindfulness practice, you kind of notice these things going on, the way you behave, the way you think, the way you feel. And there's a person there who can just sit back and notice. And what is that? That's you as well, isn't it? But it's not who you identify with. That's not, you would say, is yourself. And this opens up a lot of questions around about that kind of philosophy and how would you define yourself? And yeah, we could talk for hours on this kind of stuff, but that's just kind of my first initial kind of observations with it. I don't know what you think about it.
What really helped me is my spiritual practice, because I started a
Mm,
self-management leadership course in Oxfordshire in the UK when I was kind of lost after working 7 years in healthcare and after my training. So what I learned to differentiate is the invisible eye, the soul, and then the things I do, and
mm,
the habits that I have, and the behavior and the way you interact. But it's not, it's behavior, right? It's action. But coming back to the
mm,
I, who am I? Um, it's really understanding that whoever we think we are, it's a very temporary role. But we'll discover more about that, because what I really want to do is take you to why you ended up where you are now, because it's very meaningful to your whole journey, isn't it?
mm.
So let's dive a bit into what do you do in your life, whether it's a hobby or your professional development, or maybe even like being a child to your parents, and what did you experience to bring you to, for example, being who you are right now?
Again, where do I start with that one? There's a lot of areas. I think I'll go start with kind of like a really kind of meaningful experience for me in terms of like career wise and why I'm doing what I do now. When I look back to, I've always loved sport growing up. I've always loved play. I've always played with like loads of toys growing up. I was quite a big child. I still love it now. I still love like Transformers and Star Wars, all this stuff. I'm a big child anyway, but sport was a big part of my kind of life growing up anyway. And I was just kind of a kid who sailed through school. I was never amazing at anything, but I just always studied sport. Sport was the one for me where I was one that I was really good at in terms of like playing sport and also like learning about sport.
Right?
And I did sport in GCSE in secondary school, and then I studied sport in college. Went to university and studied sport. And at this point, I didn't really know what to do with it. Like, I had so many like aspirations. Was to be a teacher at one point. Was to be a physiotherapist. Football coach. There were so many options. I didn't really have like a set plan. But I was playing football during my final year of university, and I had a season where it was probably the worst season of my life. We had a manager come in, and like he didn't really take a liking to me. He wouldn't start me in games, and when I did start, he would take me off really like early. Wouldn't give me any feedback, and I saw my confidence kind of go from like up here to like really down low. And I started feeling the psychological impact of that. So I was starting to feel more anxiety before games, becoming really nervous, having loads of like negative thoughts in my head that I'm awful. I would come on the pitch and couldn't even do the simple things, such as like a simple 5-yard pass, which I know I'm not amazing football. I never played at like a really high level, but I was a competent footballer and I was like physically fit. And it got to a point where I would like come onto the pitch and I would feel as though I'm like fatigued. Like I felt like I had like cement bricks tied to my feet. And I was sitting there thinking, I don't know what's going on here. Like I was so confused and so lost. And it got to a point where I was kind of hoping I was going to quit football. I was hoping every match would get cancelled,
Right.
which for me was, I would have considered that in my life. You know, football was a big part of my life and still is. And sport is massive for me. And the fact that I was wanting to quit and wanting games to be cancelled was quite shocking to me. And luckily, we was doing a sports psychology module as part of my sports science degree, and that really kind of like a light bulb moment. I was like, oh, like that was like the missing piece for me. Like I didn't understand the whole situation, but as I started to learn about sports psychology and how the brain works and how that influences us on the pitch and in competition, I was like, wow, like that was what was missing for me, and that really kind of sparked my interest into thinking like, why would no one kind of make me aware of like this thing in here, like this brain? Like I learned about the body and how like we have to look after ourselves and whatnot, but no one really made me aware of like we live with this thing in our head, this brain, and it has such an influence on the things we do and how we think and feel and behave. And why was I not made aware of this growing up? And why didn't no one teach me some of the skills and how to deal with these situations? If I just knew or had some knowledge, I could have coped with that situation so much better.
Right.
And I think that really is kind of like why I'm doing this now, is because I want people to be able to understand that this thing in here, this brain we have it for our whole life, just as we do with our body. You know, we have to look after our body. And I think a lot of people are aware of how important it is to look after the physical body because it's with us our whole life. But people, I don't think, are that much aware of how important our brain is. I mean, I definitely wasn't growing up. I think my mission now is, especially within sport, is to give a lot of the kind of youth athletes and young athletes the skills to be able to cope with the demands of not just sport, but life. And that's why I think sports psychology is beautiful, because a lot of the things that we talk about within the sporting realm can be applied to life as well, because we're performing in a lot of aspects in our life, whether that's career, our home relationships and whatnot. So a lot of the skills that we learn in sports psychology can be applied to life in general. And I think it's important for especially young people to be able to learn about this, be aware of how their brain operates, how they think, how they feel, how they behave, and put the skills in place so they can cope with the demands of life. Because, you know, the way life is, culture, it's not easy. Like it's a tough time we live in, you know, even though we have such technological advancements and whatnot, it's not an easy life to be in. And we have to be able to understand that what we have in here is a big influence on what we go and do in the world and how we think and how we feel. So that was a big light bulb moment for me, that experience, and it's one I always come back to. And it was a really tough time that year. Like mentally, I struggled massively, and I've always struggled with kind of self-belief anyway and whatnot. But that was a time when I really it was tough. But then again, what came out of it was the fact that I'm here now, and that was the light bulb for me and the spark as to what I'm doing now. And I get passionate about this, and it makes me realise that I just want to go out there and being able to go into do a career where I can help people, which is really important for me, but also do it in the sporting environment it's beautiful for me, to be honest. So I hope that kind of answered the question. I kind of went on a tangent there, and just, you can tell I'm quite passionate about some stuff like that. But
you're extremely passionate, aren't you? So can you say that light bulb moment changed your life?
If I look at it, I probably, in terms of the direction I was probably going, because I still think, like, even though I was studying sport and I just kind of just fell into it, I just liked sport and just went through university, I didn't really have like a goal kind of in the end. I was just doing it, you know, like I was just kind of falling through it. And that moment was like, right, that's it. That's the part of the sport industry where I can see myself doing it. Because I changed my career loads. I wanted to be a PE teacher. I wanted to be a physiotherapist, football coach. There's loads of things I could have went to, but that was the moment where I actually figured out, like that is, in terms of what I want to do career-wise within the sport industry, that was it. So yeah, you can kind of say it probably did change my life in terms of, like, I wouldn't be doing this now if it wasn't for that moment.
Yeah, it defined how you wanted to move forward. And so, like, break it down. So life happens to us, and certain things shift us into our, I think, proper path, if you want to call it that. And what I think is that something very invisible but very present, like our brain or our behavior or motivation, things you can't touch, but they're very much there. Something inside defines what you're actually going to be taking on in life as a profession or a career, or maybe even a hobby. Because what I saw when we were preparing is that you said that you're a big believer in the fact that we should work on our physical, our mental, and our spiritual health. Now, the physical is very, very visible, right? And we usually pursue the things that we think make other people important in life. So, like our hero figures, maybe.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about the brain and the way we think, and maybe even our dharma, quoting what the book you just mentioned that you're reading prior to us starting this interview, the mental and the spiritual health. Tell us a bit about that.
So again, it's something which now, I'm still learning. I don't want to say, I'm still very cautious of the fact that I'm still relatively new into this field. So I'm still learning, and if I say anything wrong, correct me and whatnot. But I never was aware again of how important it is to look after your mental health, and health in all, I think it encompasses health, encompasses the physical, mental, and spiritual. I think it's all connected. We can't keep separating them all. When you talk to people about your health, everyone always goes to physical, like how are you feeling, like you achy, and all that kind of stuff. But no one really considers like how are you actually feeling. And like if you even speak to people, you ask people, oh, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. No, if you ask people how you're feeling, people then go, oh, it gets a lot more from people. But I think it's so important in terms of like, especially the day and age we're in now, we're seeing a lot more kind of awareness now of mental health challenges. And I think people need to prioritize. And I've noticed in myself when I've spent time to really look after my mental health. So for me, like doing stuff such as like journaling, mindfulness practices, that they're massive for me. And that they've helped me to be able to kind of cope with the kind of the mind. You know, it's a complex thing, isn't it? Spiritually as well, I'm starting to get to a point now where my background was very scientific, but I think there's certain things in the world which are really difficult to explain with science, and that's why I kind of include spiritual health now, because there's something else out there, and now I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it, but there's something. Because you get like feelings of like intuition, for example, and stuff like that. Like there's things which you can't like explain, and different modes of like feelings. So like in sport, when you get in a state of flow, that's hard to explain. That's like you're in a different state of consciousness. Like you're just doing stuff which you wouldn't be able to do if you were really focusing on it, and that interests me. So that's why I encompass like the mental and spiritual. But I think for us to be healthy, we have to include the mental and spiritual and look at how they're all connected, the physical, mental, and spiritual. And I think if you're looking at improving people's health, which should be one of the most important things we do, and I neglected my kind of health. I didn't really eat very well, or like even though I had all the knowledge, I didn't go to the gym much and do that kind of stuff. And I spent this past year really trying to get my health better, and I've seen the positive effects on it from all those three parts, the physical, mental, and spiritual. Again, there's a lot of research as to why we should do that, but I'm talking from just personal experience here. That it's probably, for me, has been probably the most meaningful adventure, is really prioritizing those three parts of myself. So that's why I'm quite passionate about helping people to realize that that should be what we do.
Amazing. Tell us a bit about what you've been doing to keep your health on all three areas, to improve your health, maybe.
So, like for me, like physically, like the gym has been a cornerstone now. I've had this knowledge of I've done sports science, so I had all this knowledge of how important it is to look after your body, but I never applied it to myself. So yeah, like I've been going to the gym consistently, and that's been a massive game changer for me. In terms of just feeling better in myself. And it's hard to explain unless you do it yourself, until you start seeing the benefits yourself. But again, I had all this knowledge about athletes who really look after themselves and whatnot, but I never applied it to myself. And it's only until my brother did it consistently and he saw the results, like, oh, okay, there's something in this. And I stuck to it, and I was like, oh yeah, I can see why people say to look after your physical self, because you feel so much better in yourself. And same thing for the mental side. Again, as a psychologist, I work with loads of athletes and recommend them certain skills and talk about the psychological stuff. But I never did it myself. I always hid away my own challenges. I never bothered anyone with the stuff I was going through. I never even told my family what it was like to be me. And they always thought that, like, Dylan's always okay. I always say to people, I'm fine, even though deep down I was struggling.
Right.
And it's only since I started taking seriously, like applying what I did with people to myself. So having more compassion for myself, talking about how I'm feeling, journaling, becoming aware of how I react in situations, what I think in situations. And I haven't seen a psychologist myself yet, but I'm going to plan to when I get back to the UK. So I think like it's important for me to see a psychologist and a therapist, because people have challenges, and that's okay. Like we're not perfect. We're humans. We're fallible. And I was always very harsh on myself and always try and help people, but I've never helped myself. So so like the mindfulness stuff has been really helpful. Like journaling, that's been quite a really helpful one, really writing down what's going on and kind of structuring my mind. A lot of self-talk stuff, like especially when I play sport, like just being more positive to myself. And the imagery's been quite a good one for me, like visualizing myself doing well, and
Amazing.
yeah, like actually just applying the stuff that I would do, like I would recommend to other people to myself. So I think those are the main things, really.
Yeah. And on a spiritual aspect, what came to you when you were delving into, well, maybe the questions that came up? What happened to you on a spiritual level? Can you share something about that?
I think this comes from my brother, because my brother, again, he went and did a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and he kind of led the way into exploring. Like he loves psychology and stuff like that. And we went two different routes. He did his own self kind of study way and explored it himself, but he got a lot. He explored a lot of like Eastern philosophies, like meditation, Buddhism, and stuff like that. And he started talking about it. And it just made me. I was interested in it. I was like, wow, okay, there's something to this. There's a reason why these philosophies are so, they've carried on even despite how old they are.
Yeah.
And it just interests me, like kind of what is consciousness and these kind of things, and who is the self, and it's hard to explain. It's just fascinating. I think there's something to it where I was like, from the UK, like my background is very scientific based, like data objectiving, we have to prove this, and like we try to objectify everything, but there's certain things which in my head I'm like, you can't objectively like prove that. And this comes back to philosophy and your understanding of all that kind of stuff and what your own opinions are. But there's just something about it which I'm still learning, still trying to figure it out myself anyway and explore a lot of these approaches. But there's like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but there's the West and East ways of approaching the brain and whatnot. There's a way you've got to put them together, I think, anyway. And that's why I like to explore these Eastern approaches, because there is something to it.
Yes, there is something to it. And I love the way you say these ancient things that do make sense. It's like they carry on, like it's always authentically true, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason why they're still around today, and there's a reason why these texts are still being talked about and being picked apart, because there's probably something to it. I don't know what it is yet. Everyone's just trying to figure it out, and no one has all the answers. And I think this is the beauty of it, where I used to get really frustrated at, like, this is why my trying to be a psychologist, first of all, was so tough, because there isn't a straight answer to things. But actually, that's the beauty of it, is get to have these conversations and explore and kind of figure it out yourself and what works for you.
Yeah, because it's the power of experience, isn't it? People can give you dry knowledge, but you need to experience it in life to be able to see the true value of it.
Yeah, I think that experience is something which I'm starting to lean more into now, and especially when I'm working with athletes, is again, like a lot of the work we do is backed by evidence. You have to be able to justify why you use a certain intervention or a technique, but people's experiences are so integral. Like, how I experience the world is so unique to me, and how you experience the world is so unique to you, and what works for you might not work for someone else. And like, when I put my content out now, I'm always very aware of, if I recommend something, I always say that, look, give it a go and see how it works for you. It might not work for you. This intervention might not be for you, or the way I suggest it might not work for you. Go and figure it out and try things, and because everyone is so unique. And I think there's not one way of doing things. And this is what I love exploring with athletes now, is I love being able to put myself and understand it from their point of view. What is their experience? How were they seeing this situation? Because again, we can judge people based on our own perceptions, but everyone's perceiving everything in such a different way. I think that's the beauty of it, really.
I have to ask, what's your brother's name?
Alex. He's fascinating. He's my best mate, and like, he's younger than me, and I actually think he's not been to university, but he knows more about the brain and psychology and like spirituality than I do. And it amazes me how much. So yeah, we have so many chats about things, but it's nice to have someone who challenges you, because again, I've come from a very scientific background, university and whatnot, but he's just done a lot of reading himself. Like, he's taken on himself to go and he sat a 10-day silent meditation retreat, which is unbelievable. But I couldn't imagine being silent for 10 days, but just doing that is incredible. So again, like, he's been a big kind of positive influence on me.
Right.
Really.
I think whether it's our clients, our friends, our family, I think seeing things from different perspectives and then bringing them together through having individual experiences really solves a bit of the puzzle. And that's why I think appreciating everyone who's in your life is very important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think like if you just walk down the street and just take time to consider that the person who is across the road from you is experiencing, has had experiences, who has been through the world and sees it in their own unique way. And like you walk past so many people in a day, and you just take a second to sit back and think like these are people who are so unique.
Right.
And it's so easy for us just to walk past people and judge them just on maybe the clothes they're wearing, or we're having a bad day and we think that person might be evil, or they do something which that you don't like, and actually you don't know what that person is. So unique, and it's beautiful being a human being. Like we're all so different, and
Yes.
it's just amazing to be able to hear people's stories and hear what people are like and what they're going to do with their life. And I think we try and put people down a lot and don't allow themselves to be able to express themselves truly. But actually, everyone is so interested.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own things that they love doing. I think I'm starting to rediscover like my authentic self, like the things I used to love doing. I used to be ashamed of sometimes and not really allow myself to do them because I didn't think they fit in with kind of the culture and what people want from you. But now I'm starting to think actually, like this is what makes me me, and that's beautiful. And I think we need to be able to rediscover that and allow people to feel as though they can be themselves.
Yes. So I think having understood that difficult life experiences really help you to find yourself, enables you to believe in yourself, and to empower yourself through embracing other people. Is that a good way to recap it?
Yeah, definitely. I look back at my life and I was always trying to be someone else and trying to impress people, and I would hide my true self away sometimes when actually, and it always felt wrong. But when I've actually been my fully self, I'm like, now I'm trying to be as authentic as possible, trying to be as honest as possible. And it feels right.
Okay.
It's hard to explain. It just feels better. Like it just feels like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. How would you describe your relationship with yourself currently compared to before?
It's getting a lot better in terms of I'm a lot more compassionate to myself, and I still struggle massively with like self-belief, and I was always very critical of myself. Like growing up, I always expected myself to be perfect, and that led me to procrastinate on so many things. Like I've never really given my all in anything, even though people from the outside might think I'm doing well or I've achieved and anything like that. In my head, I'm always like I've never done anything properly or I've never achieved anything that much in my life. When actually I have. I've done some quite cool stuff, like, you know, and I've done a master's, for example, and I never really celebrated that myself. I always thought I've just done it. And again, that just comes from me being really self-critical and probably lacking the self-belief. And now I'm at to a point where I think I still have that. Now in my head, I still don't think I can do the things I want to do, but I'm just going to do them. Just going to go out there and just practice and try. I'm going to fail, and that's fine now. I'm happy to put stuff out there and be proven wrong and go try things in it for not to work. I look back, like even my sports psychology work, I would have working with certain clients or like teams, and I would have like suggestions in my head of like, I want to do this workshop or work on this kind of thing, and I'll plan it, but I never actually go out there and do it because I lack the self-belief.
Right.
But I think it's a difficult one because I still have this problem now. I still struggle so much. I still write stuff and I think, oh, I've got this idea, but I don't have the belief to do it. But I'm getting better now at just doing it because you have to engage that discomfort. I feel like that discomfort is just part of you, and that's just who I am. Yeah. If I try to avoid it and don't accept that, I'm going to start procrastinating more and not do the things I want to do. That part of me, and I don't know where it comes from, I probably need to explore it more, that really self-critical part of myself, but that lack of self-belief. I don't know where it comes from, and it might take a lot of work to kind of unravel, but it's who I am at the minute. So I have to accept that. I can't just avoid it. And I think this acceptance now of, okay, you know, it's there, but still go and choose how to respond. Like ultimately, regardless of having that lack of self-belief, I can still go and put stuff out there. I can still go and try things. It might feel hard and it feels wrong, and I still get really harsh on myself, but actually I can still go and do stuff. So I posting content. I remember the first time posting something online, I was like, oh my God, like what's this person going to think? Are people going to think I'm talking rubbish and whatnot? But I thought, oh, I'm just going to do it. And I've done it over time now. That kind of that barrier to doing it has kind of slowly whittled away. So now I still get it, but I can easily overcome it.
Right.
And I think it shows with just the power of action, of just doing stuff and putting yourself in that situation and accepting the discomfort that's going to be there and embracing it, because it is just part of you.
Agree. I like what you say, celebrating yourself, because the way you feel is not who you are. Coming back to who am I, right? The actions you perform are actions based on ideas, and I think along the way we start to differentiate what's best for ourselves. But it takes a journey, doesn't it? It's not like we have the answers in each moment. You have to perform actions. You have to get out there and show up and be there for yourself, and then learn that celebrating yourself is about conquering the smaller things and being able to be proud of just showing up. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think in terms of it is a journey. Like no one's born with the answers. You develop, and that's why it's important to have that kind of self-compassion and reflect on things in a positive way, because you might go through an experience and I look back now and think, like, university, I didn't make the most of my time at university. I wish I would have done a lot more. But actually, I was just doing the best I could have done in that moment where I was then. I didn't have the knowledge and the experience I have now. So to look back really critically is kind of pointless, because I've changed so much now compared to what I was when I was 19 at university. So I think you got to look back yourself with a lot of like self-compassion and have that kind of understanding of you just did the best you could in that situation. And then you reflect on it, okay, and like just think, okay, like what could I have done differently, and apply those things now. And I think again, like it's I'm not sure where this comes from, whether it's cultural, whether it's just my personal upbringing, but I'm very critical of myself anyway. I still am now.
Yes.
But you have to learn ways to cope with that and still do the things you want to do, because if you don't, you'll be hampered by it your whole life. So I think you just got to accept it is part of you.
It
and
is.
work around it.
Yes.